Hello, everyone, and welcome to AC Spotlight. I lost it already. Today I'm joined by Morgan. JM of Heroes of Evermore. I lost the very soft touch you had.
Oh, hello, Mike. How are you? It's great to see you since Mysticon. It's been such a journey since. I hear you're accomplishing many things as we got much on our roadmap.
Oh, you've just leaned into it so easily. It's quite easy. See, I could do Irish accent, but it's in my tone. You do cadence and accent, which I think is ruining my brain.
Well, I've been applying for Nat 20 tours and trying to get my Irish broke down to get out there and really lay it on thick for those fellas.
Definitely squeeze yourself into one of the locals. Well, yeah, man, it's been a minute since we've spoken, since Mysticon. For those who don't know, Mysticon was an amazing experience for everyone who hasn't done so. In Carlsbad, California. It was really fun. Yeah, man, we were able to sort of hang out a little bit, but I'm really happy to sit down and kind of really pick your brain on some projects that you've been working on even before Mysticon, something that you've had kind of running for a while now. You are the GM of Heroes of Evermore. Do you mind telling us more about what Heroes of Evermore is?
Of course, yes. So as any dungeon master who has homebrewed a world wants to bring it to life, that's what I've done through Heroes of Evermore. So my world that I created was Evermore, trying to think of a good name of Forevermore, Adventures, or Nevermore, which was already something. I thought, hey, let's go with Evermore. Was able to create this homebrew campaign, learning to DM myself 6 years ago when starting with all brand new players at the table. Mind you, this was before COVID. This was before the new movie came out. This is before Baldur's Gate 3. This is before everyone nowadays knows what D&D is, where you have to convince people, hey, do you want to come over for a game night and drink and have fun, and I'll show you how to play. We're going to roll some dice. And so anyways, getting the players at the table. My wife was a player as well. And that first campaign went 2+ years, at the dining room table. As we fumbled through, I've posted a recap to show, what kind of makes me different. What people have asked is my immersion techniques, breaking down that fourth wall barrier and just immersing the players into the world or the realm. So that's what Heroes of Evermore is at its core. We've done 2 campaigns, 2+ years, took a break as I had Hobbit babies in between. And it's been such a journey. Turned that into a book. So Arc 1 of Campaign 1 has turned into a fantasy adventure novel that is published live on Amazon. So it's just grown from there exponentially into so many things. So that at its core, I'm the humble dungeon master trying to bring this world to life in any way, shape, and form that I can.
Incredible. Yeah. Turning your whole campaign, or at least an arc of a campaign, into a book, I think is every GM's dream. I think it is. There's this saying I have about GMs. There's 2 things I like to say about GMs. Is one, we're obviously real passionate storytellers, and there's no point of telling a story if there's no one there to experience it. And sure, you can tell it to your party, which I think is kind of very intimate. And the layer that you've taken is go beyond that and make some content for it so that it can be enjoyed by others beyond the table. And now, for those who don't have time to sit down for several hours and listen to an actual play, people can now read and ingest your story. So you're living kind of the dream of a storyteller, is having it all accessible in different ways.
Thank you. Yeah, and you can probably attest as a DM when you finish, I don't know if you finished like a homebrew campaign, you're remorseful. You miss those times of adventure and camaraderie and synergy when you play at the table, especially in person. It's such a beautiful thing, and missing that, I'm like, okay, let me start posting on Instagram to share, and people started loving the content and loving from our campaign 1. And so I'm like, all right, this is the thing. Let's make it happen. So then I started writing the book after campaign 1 to bring those movie theater moments that are stuck in your head to life. So yeah.
I don't know because I think we sit in the same room in this sort of experience. Is that I too have also finished a homebrew campaign to completion. Nice. And it's a wonderful feeling. And I'm wondering if you're in the same boat that I am, is that everything you do beyond that point of like, all right, campaign 2, let's go. There's always this lingering shark of campaign 1 that you're always looking back going, I hope I'm moving faster than you did. You're like, you love it to death, but you're like, please, I hope it's not just a copy paste.
Yeah. So great question. I think because mine was a continuation, so I started, players base level. I actually ran campaign 1 with XP instead of milestone, which is crazy and not advised, but you can do it. But they went all the way to level 6 by the end of campaign 1, and I picked up campaign 2. I had 2 returning players. Campaign 2 with the rest of some new players, some experienced trickled in. I had overall 8 players, not at the same time. I had 7 consistent, a couple swapped out, but continued on from level 6 is when we started, right where campaign 1 ended off. And so I got to explore more of the world. So it wasn't copy and paste, more so as more of a production. I decided to take campaign 2 to a hybrid stream. I wanted all the players to be comfortable at the table. Hey, do you want to stream this live? Everyone's doing it. And some of the new players or shy players weren't into it. Some were definitely into it. So we found out, hey, let's pre-record and put out the recaps of each session that were those bite-sized, meaty portions that are just all the good stuff. So that's what we did, and got sponsors, 18 sponsors from around the world that helped elevate from terrain sponsors to mini sponsors to candle scent sponsors. It was such an awesome way to showcase more crafters in our community while getting to game and elevating our table. So cool.
Was Heroes, it sounds like it, but I'm just going to confirm it. Was Heroes of Evermore a home game first and then evolved into an actual play? Or did you always have the vision of like this being a production in mind?
No, not at all. Campaign 1 was at the dinner table, dry erase, grid maps, and I obviously threw in my terrain bits. And then campaign 2, I had 1,000 followers at the time, and I'm like, okay, let's see. I have 10 years of marketing experience, so let me reach out and showcase what I could give to all these other community creators. If they were to send their product, I'll market it for them and show that it in use at our table. And most of the people jumped at the bit. Monsters Fight Club. Who else do we have? It was beautiful. Emberglow Gaming. It was. I'm super grateful for the relationships I built in the last 4 or 5 years of doing this, and that's what turned into, all of a sudden I was like, okay, we can actually do this. We can make this a thing. So that wasn't the original goal. Starting campaign 1, it was just for fun at the table. And to be honest, I kind of miss that aspect of just at the table. So I do one shots to grasp that, because campaign 2, those of you that have streamed know that it's like this production that you need to perform and put on to a certain degree of level for the watchability. So
yeah, I think I want to touch on that aspect, but something I also want to sort of touch before we move on is I 100% agree. When you are making a production of sort of an experience and hobby, something you enjoy, like I sit in the same boat where I have Saturday productions, and there's like an extra layer of stress that is sort of tacked on, because not only you're trying to entertain your table, you're also trying to be like, all right, I got to be on. And it's not to say that like the people you see online are faking it, but there is this sort of level of awareness that we have to be like, okay, we do have to present ourselves so that it is enjoyable to watch. You don't want to see a group of people just sort of drowned face and just sort of not having a good time, or at least sort of going through the motion.
100%.
There's this interesting concept I like to discuss about, and that is, I mean, obviously, Morgan, I already know that you already had a lot of love for the TTRPG community and the hobby, so I don't really need to touch on that. But when it comes to actual plays, there is this, like we talked about, it's like an extra layer of kind of like other content and other sort of process you have to go through. And with that in mind, there has to be some sort of level of enjoyment when it comes to like putting the camera together, getting the OBS set, do the recording, get the the editing, the thumbnails. There's a lot of things behind it. Were you always interested in content creation?
I have always been interested in content creation, but that's such a broad scope. In regards to live stream, I've talked about this on multiple interviews too. So what I mean by when we created a hybrid in pre-recording, it was to keep the flow at the table, I would put a 2-minute timer for battles for each player. You have 6 to 7 players. You're looking at 14-minute rounds anyway. So to keep the flow of things going for watchability, I still had painters who are friends in the community who were like, give us the full episodes. I want 3 hours while I'm painting to watch the slows and the goes and everything. And I'm like, guys, I feel like that's not what's going to grasp attention. And so I love making the recap reels and throwing together all of the fun animated moments that happen at the table while still telling the story of what happened in that session. If you look back at my recaps and my highlights, you'll see all those from the beginning of campaign 2, where it was like not as good, and then you see my progression starts to get better and better with video editing and cropping and such. But I've always loved showcasing all of the aspects of TTRPG. So creating content, yes, I love it. It's like my creative outlet. That and storytelling, I found through DMing, is my creative outlet. That is truly what I love, and it fills my tank, especially when you hear it from the players, how they have a great session. That's amazing.
No, yeah, I mean, honestly, you are on full cylinders when it comes to releasing that creative spark that you have. The fact that you're able to run a table, have a production, you've been running Mysticons, or a full-on like get-together and convention for those who do love the hobby, and then kind of writing the book as well. You are definitely kind of experiencing everything that most creatives want to have, which I think is really, really fun and interesting. This is an interesting concept, but obviously it's just not you. You are a DM, but you are telling a story to a couple of players. How did you find your players?
Yeah, really quick before I get into that, also with the book being Arc 1 of Campaign 1, this is collaborative storytelling, as we all know, and it's so beautiful not to, as a DM, railroad your players, but allow them agency to explore the world, and that's what I wanted. And so, yes, I had plot lines lined up, and I can shift things around as a DM, but for them to run into things that are a little more prepped, but you can't prep the whole world for them. And then in the book, I gave them co-authorship in the back of the book. So there's a picture of all of us there, and there's a couple editions of the book out there that all the players have signed. Most of them have moved away right now, but anyways, I wanted to give that because they decided what happened in the campaign. They decided where the characters went. So it's not me. I'm telling that story. I'm filling plot holes, but anyways, wanted to give credit to the players. To go off your question of how I found them, for Campaign 1, it was, like I said, before this time, when you mentioned Dungeons and Dragons, there's this, not a negative connotation. Right now, it's like, it was...
Yeah, there was the whole satanic panic thing for a while.
Yeah, and so when you say it, it's like, oh, you're a nerd, you play Dungeons and Dragons. And I will own that. Yes, 100%, I am a nerd. But back in the day, it's like asking people to be a nerd with me was like, I don't know, not Forsaken, but it was this weird thing. And so anyways, yeah, we through soccer, through church, through all sorts, any avenue of life, I was able to find them friends growing up that I knew had a little bit of a geeky nerdy side. I'd ask, and it was cool how it kind of came together. 2 players, which is in the book, ended up moving and having to stop playing. So that was like after the first couple sessions, then filled in with a couple other players that I knew growing up, him and his girlfriend. So yeah.
Incredible. It all started with some close people you knew and slowly started to blossom to what it is today.
Yes.
You touched something that I don't think a lot of GMs who are looking to open their own actual play channels and sort of get that start off, but you do edit your content and you stream it out. You mentioned like your fact of editing and having it. That sort of implies you have a bank of content, which not a lot of people understand, that having a bank of content is important. Do you mind peeling back a little bit of the layer and tell us, like, how far along do you have content planned out?
Yeah. So right now we're in between campaigns. So my content schedule has been collaborations, showcasing like promo ads, along with our character art, which we're having done for the launch of our audiobook. Our book was recorded by the beautiful Team Drew's basement. His deep, sexy voice, if you have not heard, he is amazing and brings the book to life. So now I'm overlaying background audio. So when they're in the tavern, you hear mugs clinking and the clamor of people behind, or traveling through a forest, and you hear the wind through the pines and birds chirping. So I'm currently doing that, but that's what my current flow of progress and content is going to go. Some behind the scenes of that, along with our collaborators and sponsors that we've partnered with, showcasing their stuff. What else do we have going on? And then more of Campaign 2's. I'm doing actually a recap of all the immersion techniques I've used to showcase how I'm different from other DMs. And yeah, it's just that's kind of the content. But I have to speak to when I was running the campaign and streaming and pre-recording, I had 3 cameras running, different angles, players. I had a battle cam. So you're running 3-hour sessions, 3 to 4 hour sessions on 3 different cameras. So I had to go through, those of you that are looking into streaming, I would go through 9 hours of content to pick out the meat and potatoes of each of those streams. And it was, OBS has great, mixing. There's other software that can kind of stack it all together to match voice and time frames and everything. But it is such a giant feat to take on. So just be prepared, look into the software that can help you with that. Because going through, if you are going to pre-record and produce a smaller portion to edit or recap, it takes a tremendous amount of time. With normal life, kids, and work, it took me like 2 weeks until almost our next session. I did bi-weekly sessions to get the recap out from the last one. So
it's an aspect of actual play content creation that not a lot of people talk about. Is especially when you are doing like produced content that is edited. It's not exactly like unscripted live streams. Not to say that your content's scripted, but more like, they just put the camera on and you're immediately live. And there isn't sort of any further thought beyond these sort of VODs. You are working kind of more delicately, trying to ensure that there's the right camera angles. Everything is sort of situated. Not a lot of people think about that. There's a lot of pre-production that goes into it. You mentioned that. Go for it.
Oh, go ahead. I was just gonna say, and if there are people listening that want to do that, think of, and not to discourage this in any means, showcase your beautiful art in any way, shape, or form that you can. Now, I could have, looked for players for Campaign 2 that are all very charismatic and would be great on camera. And it comes down to the question, which I feel like, why did Gary Gygax made this game? And this is to collaborative storytell. This is for fun at the table. So be in mind that when you take it to this professional level and there's this stress and pressure, Mike, that we've experienced, make sure you can still maintain that fun aspect, that dining room table synergy that is so important and crucial to making this game beautiful. And then this health journey, almost, it is such a mental health benefit to all of us. So anyways, when you're streaming, if you're doing it with your friends and here to have fun, do it, but ask yourself, what is the end goal? Do you want to go viral? Think of Critical Role and Dimension 20 and a couple others that are very big and have many, many views. But then there's this huge gap and bridge of like plethora of other content creators. So keep in mind of why you're doing it. If you're just doing it to share, beautiful. If you want to take it to that next level, you really have to invest.
Yeah. I think the best way to encourage people, and I tell this a lot of people, is I've heard this a few times where actual play GMs come to me and they're like, well, everything else has been done. Everything, and there's really nothing original. I'm like, you're right. Nothing is original anymore. However, no one can tell a story like you can. You are the only you that there will ever be. So you can only tell a story the way you can, and you will eventually find, or at least if you are able to work, there is a lot of work behind scenes of like having to get the algorithm to work for you, get the right thumbnails. There's a lot of work behind it, but once you're able to do so, you'll be able to find your audience. It is also another thing that I've heard from just content creators in general, where they're just like, just grind it out and eventually you'll find people. That's true, but there is a lot of work. Like, you can't just make content and then hope you'll find people. It's like having to test, audiences, and having to test content. And you can't just make one thing. And Yeah, and I'm honestly, Maureen, you're definitely a living proof of that. Of like, you have gone through different, content versions and sort of have improved your style as you've gone on, and even to yourself, you're like, hey man, my style has gone through changes, and it's indicative of you of any content creator going through their process. You have to continuously change and evolve.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. 100%.
There's this. I think when it comes down to Heroes of Evermore, I'm fairly curious. So it sounded like it started off with as a sort of a home game and sort of evolved from there. And when it comes to actual plays, because we have to put sort of this extra layer of entertainment, because you're not only just entertaining your table, you're entertaining the audience. I'm a bit of a betting man. I'm assuming that, because most GMs I've met who do actual plays are rules of cool and not rules as written. Are you the same way?
Great question. I am a balance of both. I lean towards rule of cool, which I feel like the description of that is like, if it makes sense in the world, let's roll with it. Like if it's legitimate, if you're trying to like break some rules to like benefit yourself or the situation, come on guys, like, okay, this is actually what the stats say. Like I'll pull them up and be like, this is what it says. And then I'll find like a balance. Like, hey, why don't we just say it's this because you're not falling as far or jumping as far or whatever the case may be. We'll cut back on the dice or the DC or whatever it may be. I am easily able to, if it makes sense in game, to go with the flow on that. So I guess I would lean more towards rule of cool while using the rules as that backbone to stand on.
With that in mind, that you do sort of tend to lean, so long as there is a justifiable answer, but you do tend to lean to sort of more of the flexibility of rules. Is there a rule at your table that is written in stone?
Ooh. I will always preface before any campaign to all my players, no team killing. Yeah. And I won't do any like descriptive sex scenes. Sorry for the spicy ones out there.
People who do it, hey, you're strong.
Flirt.
Go for it.
I'm like, hey guys, flirt with me all you want. I will flirt with you. I will try to pull attention, but
fade to black.
That's right. But this is not a rom-com book or whatever you want to call it. So anyways, that's probably the core ones that I'll go for. And luckily I haven't had players that are murder hobos yet, where I would draw that line or drop a big consequence on them if that happened.
It's funny. I've experienced the same thing where I don't think in my many campaigns I've run that I've had a murder hobo, but I think as a game master inside of this industry and have taken, like, you're in sort of the same boat of like elevating a table game beyond of what it could be. Have you given it much thought of like what your reaction would be to a murder hobo? Because I've dreamt up scenarios of like, okay, this happens, that'll be my response, or this is going to be the results.
I mean, I don't know if you've seen in my recaps, but the dragon that was at MysticCon, the big one at the door, red dragon, 7 foot tall. I took off the head, mounted it to a swivel pulley system to my garage door gears, winch system, and to my clicker, and I dropped it through the tavern roof onto my players. It actually dropped down, clicked the fog machine, and fog came down as its breath weapon onto our players at the table here. I'm pointing over here because I'm in Evermore Tavern right now in the garage. But that's the level that I would do if they decided to excessively, hey, if it's justifiable and some, NPCs being an a-hole and you want to kill him and bury the evidence, take some magic item he has, whatever. But if it's like a consistent murder hobo of everybody they run into, yeah, there's going to be definitely some consequences. In campaign 2, I had a scavenger worm, pretty much Tremors, right, come up and like grab one of our players and pull them under. Like, the DM, you can do what you want, and to have a healthy fear of the DM is really good to have for players, while knowing you're not trying to TPK them. So
no, that's fair, and having a physical prop there to just put a little bit more kind of a little bit more fear and emotion. It's funny when I talk about emotion about being a GM is I've said this a few times, but I kind of agree. It's kind of hard not to argue that us as GMs, we are emotional vampires. We love it when the party's feeling something, and I spoke to a GM fairly recently who was like, I made my party cry. And I was like, well, I think it's a funny thought because I don't think we try to make our party cry, but we really wish you did. And that was kind of how the reaction was like, we're not intending to do so, but if you did so, that just made my week. Because we're emotional vampires. We love it when you feel something.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and it's, if you can get your players to cry over, because the role play and immersion is so good, that they, like, I intertwine all backstory throughout. Like, every session there is like a glean or a hint or a mention of a player's backstory that is, and I'm watching if it's perking their ears to what is going on. And I had one of the players, because I feel like their backstory, especially first-time players, really ties to maybe something they've gone through or they are going through. And one of them was like, the dad left, and like him and the mom hunkered down and made a living, and then he like set sail, and it was our human bard, Maddie. And then like, I didn't know the full backstory of his real life, but like then I had him run into his dad who was off pirating in this like port city, and like he had to watching him confront this struggle of like, why did you leave, and being an asshole to him, and the dad having justified reasons to leave. And it was this a beautiful role play moment. I get goosebumps talking about it because it was in the moment so like powerful and palpable. Yeah. Something I like to ask my GMs who I talk to is if there's a moment that from your games that kind of really stuck with you. And it feels like this is the answer. You've kind of answered it for me. Or is there another moment in your games that kind of never leaves you? It's it's all of it combined, to be honest. Like, it's so fun to see the enjoyment of others at your table. You can provide that, especially going through COVID, especially going through the world that we're going through right now. Whenever I turn on in the beginning, when I'm shouting out sponsors, I'm like, hey, welcome back to Evermore, your rest and reprieve from the outside world. Like, that's what I want from the players. Like, that's what I want for everyone watching. Like, come hang out in this epic realm and adventure with this party and all of us together, and let's work some things out and be the heroes. That's why I say no team kill. Like, you guys, the goal of this game is to come together and defeat evil, whatever that may be, and however you may do it. There are evil entities. That's why the monster manual is called the monster manual. There are monsters in there that you have to defeat, and there are monsters in the real world you have to defeat, and it's laying those out and allowing them to defeat these monsters. If they can't defeat them in the real world, they get to go in the next day to work and be like, let's do this. I did this last night. I'm going to conquer the day. And it's such a good feeling. And then the last, to top this question off, I would say my players would say from campaign to session 13. I can just text them session 13 and they're like, let's go. It was a Colosseum battle backstory. Some of the players, like family members, were captured, thrown in, forced in the gladiator pit. The players like sneakily get in there, and they're fighting all of these bad guys. The BBEG is there and drops a surprise that he is the BBEG and he's been plotting this whole thing. And they're in this huge Colosseum. Our mini sponsor shipped me 4 different pieces of this huge Roman Colosseum, and I fitted it to fill with water, and I hid like a water pump and a fog machine up to go into it. So all of a sudden the floor opens up, they feel trembling on the ground, and the arena fills with water. I give them a reaction to do what they're going to do, and I drop dry ice as water fills it, and it starts bubbling, and a tentacle comes up, grabs one of the NPCs, and then a full ancient kraken emerges from beneath the Gauntlet of the Gods arena, and full out battle, and everyone was working together so well. The ranged were back farther, and I was dropping lightning on them, and like, it was such an epic. One of the players runs and jumps into the mouth of the kraken to grab another player out and do enough damage to be regurgitated, and it was just there. The synergy at the table was, like I've said before, palpable, and that was one of the best sessions we've ever had. So that was good.
Oh man. First and foremost, it sounds like a blast to be at your table. That sounds
Thanks.
incredible. And I totally mirror that experience of like, there is an NPC, sort of a bad person NPC in one of my games, and I've run this story for 3 parties so far, and each party has had the same reaction. If they ever watch this video, I only have to say one word, which is Lily. And every time I say Lily, a lot of my players just go, "No, I don't want to talk about this person anymore." And there's some genuine hate towards a villain, which obviously is me going, "Yes, you're supposed to hate them." Perfect.
Yeah.
You've talked
So
about this a few times, but I finally want to dive into it. Is you mentioned that you have ways to involve your players. You have best ways to involve your players, like involvement techniques. Do you mind divulging a little bit what that means?
Oh yeah. So a couple of my players did guest appearances in campaign 2 from campaign 1. They moved away, but what I've been known to do is mail things to players, and I'll say don't open it until the session, and I will mail, whether it's a note. I've actually, there was I had one of those military daggers that had the end that opens up for like matches and flint and stuff, and compass, and so I hid a note in there, and I said, "Hey, this is what your mother gave you, and there's actually something inside." And like, you start to notice it peeling from the top, and then they're like, "What?" And they undo this, and they've had this dagger for a while as just a prop, and then they open it up, and it's like this letter from their mother who has ceased past, and like things like that. Like, I will have the codex from the Shop of Many Things, like the little cryptic codex with like that the players need to unlock and figure out the code at the table. All sorts. I have the Shop of Many Things is a great resource. But they have black light pens, and so in the journal that one of my players got off of an enemy, all of a sudden, it's right like Harry Potter style. Like all of a sudden, text appears each day, and it's like they need the blue light to go in there and see. And I'm doing it before sessions of what the enemy is saying, and it's so fun and that I feel like just immerses them one more step into the realm.
You said that you do this it's like bi-weekly, the sort of the recording.
Yeah.
How much time, like honestly, like in hours, how much time did you put into each session prep?
Oh man, mind you, this is like this is trying to maintain that work-life hobby balance, and it's really difficult. But I would say
we're going to be surprised. I'm assuming.
I would say you find time in the little moments, and if I can help anybody by doing this, like the 15 minutes you have, like looking up an item, prepping, looking up examples, YouTubing how people have used things. I was big in YouTubing like science projects to make it like flames go green, and then like, oh, they used camping flames, which is Camping World. And then, I'm doing this like while I'm in and out of the shower or going to the restroom or whatever the case, find those little moments to research, to plot, and then, hey, I'll DoorDash that stuff. Or next time I'm driving, I'll like pick up, magic flames that turns the flames green in the middle, and everybody, that wow factor. Or how to make a drink. Like I've done those bubbles, have the edible bubbles where I fill it with smoke and then have it go over a glass. And it was the Mana Moonshine that a wizard that ran a speakeasy did. Like, it was so fun. And that's, but to answer your question, lots of hours, pretty much the night before, setting up and testing the physical things. Like I had a ship that rose up and hiding the wires that's going to lift it, and then hooking it up to the garage mount, the clicker. So all of a sudden the sorcerers use control wind and lift 4 of them on each corner and lift this giant ship from behind the Colosseum. And all of a sudden they're having this air ground battle with cannons going off. And I spray paint the little confetti poppers that I can pull black to be like cannons. And I'm popping it out at the players, and they're like, jump factor again. It's sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but that's
no, I love it.
Hours for sure, putting into it. So,
oh man, well, all of that, it sounds like a blast. I think anyone who wants to sit down and see this magnificent dance of props and storytelling definitely needs to check you out. So thank you so much, Morgan, for joining me today, and not only for sharing your story with me, but sharing your adventures with everyone on the internet. which leads me to my last question. Where can people find Heroes of Evermore?
Yes, I kept it simple for everybody and sanity for myself. All on Instagram at heroes_of_evermore. In our link in our bio is our link tree, which has all of our links to collaborators, to my book, to MysticCon convention in Southern California. If you're local, we have people fly from across the country to join too. Let's see what else. All sorts of fun things. So you can find us there. All the highlights and recaps of things will be there as well on Instagram. So with plenty more to come.
Incredible. Well, until then, we'll see you guys next time.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Thanks for having me.